Greetings to everyone on the second video. No less interesting stories await us in it. I will not detain you. Let's get started. Story 1 from user Arthur Dimsdalesgull. I broke up with my ex-boyfriend because he was cheating. He and his best friend decided to break into my apartment and wait for me to get home from going out. What started out as a chance for him to talk some sense into me and get me back turned into them keeping me hostage, raping and beating me for 18 hours. I never told anyone what happened because they threatened me. My family never understood why I broke up with him, and they still invited him to family functions. I would go to holidays and he would show up. I asked them not to, but they still did. I stopped going around them, and they have no idea why. I miss my nephews and nieces, but I can't go around them and risk seeing him, and at this point it's been so long since it happened that I don't think they will believe me. I just want the pain of what happened and having to lose my family over it to end, but it never does. Edit. Thank you so much for your kind words and support and some of your offers to hurt them, LOL. I would love nothing more. I took your advice and made an appointment to see a therapist yesterday. I got on the 25th for my first appointment, and I hope it will be the start of being able to talk about and get over this. Thank you again. You guys really helped me. Edit. Further update because of the huge amount of positive feedback and encouragement I have received. I went to my therapy appointment and have continued to go every week. I am seeing a lot of things I can and have already changed in myself, so I won't choose the wrong type of people to have in my life. I have reached out to my parents. I haven't told them everything yet. I am just not ready, and I am okay with that. I will be okay one day, and hopefully they will be understanding and loving like I see them being in my head. For now, I am working on me, and really that's all I can do. My therapist suggested I try dating, and I did, but I saw a few red flags right away and was instantly turned off. I just don't think it's the right course of action for me right now, and again, that's okay. My therapist always ends our session by saying one sunset at a time, and that's how I am going to live my life. Story 2 from user deleted. On the day of our 10-year wedding anniversary, I found that my wife had been talking to a guy online, trading pics, talking about possibly leaving me for about a month and a half. I sort of knew the guy through the guild my wife and I were in, World of Warcraft. The night before when I got home from work, she was telling me some jokes he had told her, and I found it strange that she found them as funny as she did. I felt like it wasn't something she would normally laugh at. So while we were on the couch watching TV, I logged into her Discord account, and the first thing I saw was, "I'd send you butt pics, but I'm being supervised." I immediately excused myself and went to bed. I didn't know what to think, so I just shut down. Upon waking up in the morning, I Googled a script that would download their chat history from Discord, and I read it all. My heart broke when I read, "I'm so angry at husband when he's not with me, but I'm fine when he's here." My heart shattered the first time I saw her say, "I love you" in the chat logs. It shattered again when I thought banging husband a bunch would cure my horniness, but it hasn't. I haven't cried and I can't even remember the last time I cried, but I cried 3 times while reading the logs. It was a sick train ride of deep sadness, despair, and anger, seeing the progression of this happening. Getting further into the logs, I see them arguing, resolving said arguments, and then arguing again. At one point, she exclaims to him, she doesn't know why she's doing this and that she really loves me, but he's like her kryptonite, and she can't help it. I can see both of them pushing each other away, yet still trading pics, presumably through Snapchat, although I can't prove it, every so often. By the end of the logs, it appeared to me that they were basically censored buddies, whenever one or the other got horny, I guess. It seemed like any relationship had run its course, and they were just mechanically, or habitually, doing this. I confronted her, said, "Happy anniversary. Do we have another year?" Told her I found the logs and read them. She explained how it happened, that we did have another year. She didn't know how to end it once she realized what she was doing, that she didn't really cheat on me, eye roll, that she would immediately block him on everything I was pretty catatonic for almost a week. It's about 6 weeks later now. We seem to be doing fine now, I think. The trust is still broken though, and I still find myself wanting to log into all her accounts to check on things if she leaves her phone out or computer on. I am doing mostly okay at this point, though sometimes I'll hear or see something that reminds me of everything, like when I saw this post title, and I'll have an attack of depression? I guess. Hard to explain. I haven't talked to anyone about this because I still love her, and I don't want my family and friends to hate her. Now, I feel like I should note why she was angry with me since I mentioned it, but didn't really explain. She was angry because she felt like I wasn't doing anything enough around the house. She talked to me about that, while she was already talking to him. Now, I felt like I was doing plenty, and she just wasn't recognizing it. However, I still took her complaint seriously. So I started writing down everything I did around the house in a sort of daily journal, from picking up trash, cleaning up cat puke, taking care of the lil one, to picking up her old coffee mugs and used Splenda packets. I'm still doing this because I realized while I was doing things around the house before I started the documentation, it was hard to say how much I was actually doing because most of it seems inconsequential by itself, and I would forget what I had done, making it hard to say I wasn't just being lazy. When tracking it though, it's much easier to remember without looking at the journal, and it all added together is actually a lot that I do. Plus, it's just satisfying to see the pages fill up from margin to margin with all of that stuff. Anyways, thanks for this post. It's been really good to actually say something about this. Story 3 from user deleted. My mom and her boyfriend abused me and my 2 younger siblings, brother and sister, when we were very young. I was the oldest at age 5 at the time of my brother's first birthday, when I noticed something wasn't right. But at 5, I didn't really understand what was going on, and I thought abuse was normal. Until one day, a few days after my brother's birthday, she told me my brother was sick and that he needed to go to the hospital. I didn't think much about it and said my goodbyes, as my mom dropped me off at my aunt's house on the way to the hospital. I arrived at my aunt's house. She gave me a bath, and me and my cousins played and watched television until it turned dark. Then something went wrong. We heard a knock on the door. I heard and started after the door, thinking my mom was here with my baby brother. I was thinking he was okay and everything was fine. My aunt opened the door and started to cry. I tried to piece it all together before I realized there were 2 tall men at the door, police officers. They picked me up and told me I had to go away. I remember screaming for my aunt, and I didn't get to say goodbye. At the time, I didn't understand what was happening at all. I even thought maybe they were picking me up and taking me to my mother. We arrive at a place I cannot remember much about, where they fed me and took care of me that night until the sun came up. After I had woken up, it was off to another location. They were taking me to a foster home. I was living with a large family I didn't know, and it was all too scary for me. I stayed there for a few weeks until I was moved somewhere else. There I waited in a room when I saw somebody I knew, my grandparents and my sister. But my brother wasn't there. I began to worry that he was still sick. I got so excited still, and even more so learning that they were taking me home. That's when they began to explain to me where I was and why all of this had happened. All the abuse and neglect was too much for him. He wasn't sick, he was dying. And the reason why I was taken away was simply because my mother and her boyfriend was charged for abusing us and causing him to pass away. All this didn't really faze me at the time, since I was still just a child. But after the years, I started to blame myself for not being able to do anything about it, even though I was so young and couldn't possibly do so. Every year, on his birthday, I go to where he was buried and put a flower on his grave. My aunt told me he loved yellow, so I always make sure to get yellow flowers, and maybe a small toy I think he would have liked. And sometimes I wonder if he's up there, looking down on me, and likes the fact that I still visit him every year. Story 4 from user It's Mac Attack. I have stage 4 stomach cancer. Over a 2-month period earlier this year, I unexpectedly dropped about 30 lbs of weight from 220 lbs to 190. I was urged by friends and family to seek medical help, so I did. I was diagnosed with gastritis. After failure to successfully treat it, they realized there was a misdiagnosis. I've been misdiagnosed since then with Crohn's disease, diverticulitis, and ulcerative colitis over a few months. Last Thursday, I received the diagnosis of stage 4 gastric cancer. Finally, one of the doctors I've been seeing decided to do an endoscopy, where they run a tube with a camera down into your organs to get a better look. They found a tumorous growth inside of my stomach. It proves to be malignant. They found that it has spread to nearby lymph nodes, and I have an appointment tomorrow for them to check other organs they now believe may have also been affected. I do not know how to tell my family about this. My symptoms have been persistent nausea, blood and vomit and stool, disinterest in food, and even when hungry, I feel full after a couple bites. I've continued to lose weight and am now down to about 175. I haven't weighed 175 since middle school. I'm constantly fatigued, which sucks working 60 hours a week doing physical work. Fairly constant discomfort in my abdomen as well. I've been diligent in hiding all of this from my wife, kids, parents, siblings, co-workers, and friends. I never told them much after the diagnosis of Crohn's disease and diverticulitis. I do not want anyone to treat me differently or try to do things for me that I can still do. I just want to stay useful for as long as I can. I don't want to burden anyone with such news, and I'd like to keep my dignity for the time being. After a lifetime of bipolar disorder, I have never liked myself or wanted to stay alive. I had a successful censored attempt 12 years ago, but was revived shortly after by emergency medical services. 3 years later, I tried again and failed. Less than a year later, I was Baker acted for starting to set forth a plan to censored. I have always hated myself and thought of censored. I've also always been an atheist, so I do not fear an afterlife of torment and despair. But this diagnosis almost makes me want to believe in a God. I know I will not live, and there is nothing I can do about it, not anyone else. I don't have to give my family a bigger grief of censored now. I can just let this cancer take me. And take me it will. This is my secret, and I will keep it from everyone but you, Reddit. As nobody in my personal life uses this site, I can rest assured you will keep it too. It does feel much better to get that off my chest. I appreciate those who took the time to read it. Story 5 from user Cheese Pancakes. My fiancé is the only person I actually enjoy being around. I don't really say that out loud because it puts unfair pressure on her and exposes my antisocial tendencies. I wasn't always this way. It kind of happened over the past 6 or 7 years after a deep depression and struggle with drugs. I've been happy and drug-free for several years, but I haven't been the same. When I make myself hang out with friends, I generally sit there thinking about how long I should stay before I can duck out and go home without looking like an asshole. It's hard for me to have conversations with people because I just think things like, when are they going to leave me alone? Or, when can I leave? I'm pretty good at hiding it and have several people who consider me to be their friends, but I secretly get no enjoyment out of those relationships. I'm not sure why my fiancé is different, but it makes me very afraid of losing her. I'm almost positive I won't find anyone else that I will be able to love like I do her. There have been a few months here and there in the past where we split up, and I went out on dates with several other women. Some of them were very pretty and very nice, but I absolutely hated the entire process and never followed through on subsequent dates. I wish I could change that about myself, but I don't know how. Thanks to everyone who was here today. See you tomorrow on new videos. Bye-bye.